CBC is a new education curriculum where CBC stands for the competency-based curriculum. It was the late President Daniel Tretich Arap Moi who introduced the 844 from Canada. To the educators, actually what changed from 844 to CBC in terms of content, it is what they call the pedagogy.
Welcome dear listener and viewer. Today the matter brings you an interview on CBC with our guest here. He's going to introduce himself. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I am Hassan Kuya, an educator. I've been in the sector, I'm counting 10 years this year. And I've been in through from both the high school to the university level.
Wow, that's nice. If I may ask, before going direct to the interview, these 10 years you're saying you have been in the field, how do you manage to be in campus and yet again you're in high school? How does it work?
It's a matter of planning yourself and setting agreements with the different institutions. Once we set an agreement, we agree that we shall do this at this particular time, then you plan your time when all shall be well.
Wow, that's nice. Now, let's go direct to our interview. And today, we wanted to know more about CBC. And if I may ask as the first question, maybe most of the people don't know what is CBC. So kindly take us through and tell us what is CBC.
CBC is a new education curriculum where CBC stands for the competency-based curriculum. CBC was taken up by the country Kenya first in 2017. But before that, the country Kenya has gone through a series of steps that brought us to CBC. Before 1985, that's 1984, we didn't have the 844 system. It was the late President Daniel Tretich Arap Moi who introduced the 844 from Canada. After the introduction of 844, Kenya, we are part of the UNICEF. Being part of UNICEF, we are expected to do a review of the curriculum in the country after every 5 years. Now, however, that did not happen. It was until in 2002 when the first review of the 844 was done. After the review in 2002, the committee that reviewed the education curriculum proposed that the number of subjects being taught was so many. So that led to a reduction in the number of subjects. At the primary school level, subjects like music, art and craft, and home science was scrapped off from the curriculum. Then later on in 2008, another review was done. But nothing was implemented from the review of 2008. In 2014, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania met in Arusha to discuss about the education curriculum. From the discussion, there was an agreement that the three countries have to change their education curriculum, and the education curriculum was supposed to last for 2, 6, 3, 3 years, which now comes to be CBC. In 2014, some recommendations were made, but the government of Kenya did not have enough money to take up the recommendations and implement them. So it was until in 2017, the budget of the country could now accommodate the CBC. That was when the CBC started. So looking at CBC, we have come all the way, because looking at how it is implemented, it's like the former 844, because after the scrapping off of the various subjects, we learned that the 844 did not manage to teach some of the skills. The results, or the people who are trained by the 844, tend to be, most of them do not have the skills, they have the knowledge. CBC comes in with the competencies, which touch on the skills and ability to apply the knowledge gained. So the change from 844 to CBC is like a change from the knowledge-based education system to the competency-based education system. Number two, The change from 844 to CBC is a change from the teacher-based education system to a learner-based education system, because with the CBC, even the parents are involved. That is why I'll tell you that CBC comes with a tripartite. Three parties are involved. That is the learner, the teacher, and the parent. And one of the aspects of CBC is the parental engagement, where the parents are empowered to help or partake in the learning of their children.
Okay, that's a marvelous and a nice description of CBC. So at least for some of us who maybe were not aware, at least now we are aware. If I may ask, now that you've touched on skills, about comparison of skills and knowledge, kindly just clarify for us, is CBC really bringing skills to the kids or to learners, or it is just mentioned that it gives skills, but in real sense, that skill is not working?
The reason why I'll say that CBC brings or imparts skills, actually it imparts competencies, is that the way or the mode of delivery is not only lecture. If you look at the curriculum or the syllabus, the different classes are supposed to learn or to use, the curriculum is made up of different activities that keep the learners in practice of some of the activities. They learn through doing some things instead of just sitting in class to be told some things. For example, there is a learning area which you used to call a subject in 844 called home science. At grade 4 level, the home science as a learning area is supposed to teach the learners on how to do laundry, where they're introduced on how to wash a handkerchief. Some of the things that those who've gone through 844 didn't learn. The fact that the handkerchief is washed practically. In class 5, they are now introduced to washing maybe a bigger cloth like a shirt or a blouse. So the practical aspect of CBC makes it a skill-based education curriculum.
Okay, to add on that, now that it is based on skills, these learners are put in one class and they are being taught in one class. And bear in mind that they don't have the same skills, all of them. So how is this efficient?
Actually, the CBC removed the marks and the percentages, and the awarding of the CBC, it's awarded based on 1, where 1 stands for below expectations, 2 stands for approaching expectations, 3 stands for meeting expectations, and 4 stands for exceeding expectations. And the ladder of CBC, or the journey that they have to go through as they learn CBC, will help them to identify the competencies, an area where a learner is strong. For example, let me put it this way. After learning the early years, that's grade 1, 2, 3, they come to the mid-primary, that's grade 4, 5, 6. They'll go to lower secondary, grade 7, 8, and 9. Now, when they proceed to the upper secondary, that's grade 10, 11, and 12, they'll be expected to begin specializing. And there are 3 different specializations that the learners will take. The 3 specializations, number 1, the first specialization is STEM. STEM is made up of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Those who are endowed with the skills and ability to handle that one take the first option. The second option is made up of social sciences. The social sciences is made up of other areas like human resource management, psychology, sociology, and political science, and where journalism and media is also false. Now, the second category now picks the learners who are endowed in that category. The third category is made up of sports and talent. Under sports and talent, the learners are supposed to either take up things like music, they take up things like physical and health education, there's football, and so on. So, CBC is designed in a manner that the teachers, alongside with the learners, are able to determine the area of strength of a given child so that the child is placed where they belong best and you will not end up struggling. Take, for example, those who learned through 844, not everyone was good in mathematics. But the education curriculum forces us to concentrate on mathematics. Even if you get an E, that you'll be finished. But with the CBC, there'll be nothing like somebody who can't do mathematics, but they can sing. They will end up in the third category.
Okay, nice. To add on that, if I ask, what is your view about CBC? Is it expensive?
The argument or the theory that CBC is expensive comes from those who have not understood what the government proposes about CBC. Because there's something called TALULA. Those are capital letters. TALULA, where it means teaching and learning using locally available materials. When the teachers are supposed to teach and learning will take place using locally available materials, then it will no longer be expensive. In fact, what teachers or educators are advised to do, in most cases, they're supposed to improvise. They're not supposed to keep on running to the shop. The fact that they are now running to the shop, that is what is making people complain that CBC is expensive. But if we went back to TALULA and ensure that teaching and learning is taking place with the aid of locally available materials, then CBC will not be that expensive.
Okay. If I have a question on that, you're saying that CBC will not be expensive. Now, yes, the learners are sent for locally available goods or commodities or properties, let's say properties. Now, if they are being sent, and maybe, for example, a child is sent to come for a hen, and yet I'm coming from from a humble background, I don't afford that hen. What will my kid feel going back to school without? Maybe 99% are coming back with.
I understand where you're driving from. There are alternatives to being sent to bring a hen, because actually, whether it's a hen or a cock, the price might be very high. But now, the most important thing here is the teacher who decides that we shall use a hen has other alternatives, because take for example, they just concluded CBC projects. I recall grade 6, there was a project on how to prepare a stew. NEC, when NEC prepared the project or the examination, the assessment, they didn't specify that the schools must prepare hens. There are different alternatives that we can use. Take for example, if you don't come from an area where there are cocks and hens, possibly we can run to a butchery and get the smallest quantity of meat so that we show learners how to prepare a stew. So the thing that should be done here is let us explore all alternatives so that by the time we make a decision that we are choosing this sector, it doesn't come out that it's the most expensive one.
Okay, nice. Thank you for that clarification, because I think more parents take it as expensive. Let me ask you a simple question. Will Ezekiel Machoga, the new CS academic, the new CS for education, will he do away with the CBC, or he will make Magoha's dream successful?
In the first place, before we come to Ezekiel Machoga, the outgoing Cabinet Secretary for Education, Magoha, had a cry that the incoming government should support CBC. And he was in for CBC because he was employed by Uhuru Kenyatta, who was pro CBC. Now that Ezekiel is coming in, Ezekiel will do what the government will direct him to do. And now that the government, under the newly elected president, William Samoei Ruto, has directed that a review for the curriculum be done, I believe that Ezekiel Machoga will implement the proposals that the committee will come up with, because we will be looking forward to carrying out the duties as assigned by the government.
Okay, nice. So it shows that your take is that Ezekiel will not do away with the CBC.
I can't take that stand because anything can happen. But as far as I'm concerned, the government has already told us that we are doing a review of the curriculum. So we're not doing away with it. We are doing a review to look at the different things, because to the educators, actually what changed from 844 to CBC in terms of content, it is what they call the pedagogy. Pedagogy is the way content is delivered. That's what changed as we moved from 844 to CBC. Because if you look at the content seems to be the same, or there are very little differences between the content that was taught in 844 and the content being taught in CBC. So if the committee proposes that we do away with it completely, then it shall come to pass. But if the committee sticks that we have to maintain CBC, then we shall also maintain it. So Ezekiel will stand with what the government of the day will direct him to. Okay, we hope
The same as Kenyans. Then, now that there was that 844 and now we have CBC, if I may ask, if you compare the duration for each curriculum, which one is taking more time than the other?
actually a comparison. 844 was 8 plus 4 plus 4, that's 16. CBC is 2 plus 6, that's 8, plus 3, that's 11, plus 3, that's 14. CBC takes 14 years, while 844 was taking 16 years.
So now at least 2 years have been deducted.
Yes, at least the learners will complete school a little bit earlier compared to what used to happen in the previous curriculum.
Wow. What about now? We had several or a few politicians, some of them were talking not favoring CBC, some of them are favoring. What do you see about that? Some are saying that CBC is meant for rich parents or children from rich families.
A good example of that politician is Didmas Baraza. And I'll not forget to mention that in 2014, the committee that was tasked with the responsibility of working towards CBC tabled a paper in the National Parliament in which there was a discussion by the same politicians who are now throwing stones at CBC. They're the same people who discussed and agreed on behalf of all Kenyans that let us take up CBC. It can be so much surprising that after a few years, they are then coming and throwing stones at CBC. The question that maybe I might pose to them is, if they thought that CBC was good at that time, what has changed now? They are now throwing stones at CBC. That's a very clear question that they need to first of all tell us, because the parents did not start CBC, the teachers did not start CBC. CBC was implemented by the government, and the government, it passed through the parliament. Now the same politicians who sit the parliament cannot come today and start telling us, no, we don't want CBC. They have to be clear, and we need to distinguish between politics and the real aspects that touch on the education of our children as a country.
Okay, that's nice. What about your take about the side of teachers? Now that maybe if I try to weigh, maybe most of the teachers have gone through 844 who are now currently teaching in schools. What about how do they manage now to teach the new curriculum?
The rollout of CBC, first of all, came with the teacher training. The teachers were the first people to be introduced to the CBC. So currently, the highest class is in grade 6, and they're preparing to go to junior secondary, that is Form 1, which will be grade 7 next year. As we're talking now, across the country, the teachers who are expected to handle these learners are going through the training. And the training they're going through is set to prepare them on how to handle CBC, which is a little bit different from 844. The same training has been happening all along, year after year, in preparation of the same teachers to handle different classes that were being rolled out as time has been going by.
Wow, that's nice. What about your own take? Do you support CBC or you don't?
On my side, I'll be in for CBC because CBC is more of better than 844. In the first place, if you look at 844, the original 844 was good. But the 2002 review that scrapped off some of the subjects, that is what damaged 844. Take for example, we are living in a country whose backbone is agriculture. And our learners in primary school do not learn agriculture. Even those who proceed to high school, agriculture is an optional subject. That's a question that we need to become worried about. Because if our backbone is agriculture, and agriculture is optional, that means that there are those who can take agriculture, there are those who can't take agriculture. We are in a society where technology is changing at a very high speed. Until we are able to keep abreast with the new inventions, then that will mean that our learners or our children will not be able to take up this new technology. And therefore, CBC comes in to take care of these forgotten areas. Look at something like talents. Look at something like sports. These are forgotten areas. Where do we take the best musician, the best singer? Where do we take the best footballer? After competing in that competition, what happens at the end of the day? They are no longer able to proceed because the country does not give them enough avenues to showcase what they want. And let's also don't forget, in 2010, we took over a new constitution. CBC inculcates the proposals or the law in the 2010 constitution. 844 doesn't have a place for that constitution apart from just few syllabus reviews that have sought to include a few aspects of the constitution in the curriculum. However, CBC is a curriculum that is current and that which will meet our needs as a country as we live in the 21st century.
Wow, that's nice. I think on my side, I will answer next. Today, let's go as per what we have received. The information is so sufficient and I'm much grateful from the matter. Today we were much privileged as the matter to host a lecturer with a lot of experience, a 10-year experience from Multimedia University. We are much grateful. Make sure you keep watching our videos and subscribe, follow us. You'll get us as the matter and we will really appreciate. Thank you. Let's meet next time. Bye bye.